You're listening to In Kap We Trust for the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. You can find the team on our Twitter at ANY Podcast or on our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And now, to bring us in, the Jackdaws.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In Kap We Trust. That was the Jackdaws that brought us in here. That is Jackdaws. The Jackdaws, you can find them on Instagram or on Facebook. They will be bringing us in for all of our segments now and exiting us out as well. But this is In Kap We Trust. This is our Philadelphia Phillies segment. I am Shane. I am joined here with Rob and Elle in studio. Rob, how are you, sir?
Doing, after watching that Phillies game, not doing too great, but could be worse.
You can blame me. We'll get into that shortly. Elle, how are you?
Doing all right. Better than anybody that's been to the last 3 games.
Well, it's good to have you back in for some Phillies talk as well. So as I mentioned, you guys can blame me. We'll bring our first 2 points in here kind of together. If you've been paying attention, the way that most of our series have gone over the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Last 9 series. You're talking about losing game 1 and then winning the series?
And then taking the series. That was not the case this time. So naturally, so I went to game 2 of the series. So because these tickets have been purchased, well in advance, it was Dollar Dog Night.
How many did you eat?
I only had 2.
I had 4. No, I had 5 when I went.
It was so damn cold. I was so pissed off.
I'm going in 2 weeks.
Have they lost every Dollar Dog Night? Because I went against Detroit when it was Dollar Dog Night, and they lost that one too.
And then you went against their 0-3.
The game they lost, though, was the game that the Nationals hit that ninth inning game tying home run, 10th inning. Yeah, that was
atrocious.
So we've all been to a different Dollar Dog Night, and they've lost every single one of them.
All right, well, so we can blame the podcast then for attending baseball games.
It's a good thing they don't have another one until the fall.
No, it is a good thing. But yes, so I went to game 2 of this series, and well, it was the exact opposite. We go in, we take game 1. Offense was pretty stagnant through early on in that game 1 of the series. Kind of turned it on late. Was able to pull out a victory there. And then games 2, 3, and 4 happened, and we found out that there are certainly tiers and classes of really, really good baseball teams, and the Phillies are not yet in conversations with teams like Milwaukee.
No, not even close.
Milwaukee's not even a first-place team.
Well,
the
Cubs got hot.
I'm just saying.
At the end of the day, Milwaukee's going to end up being a better team than the Cubs.
Absolutely. But they're a damn good team with a really, really, really good offense.
And the best player in baseball, in my opinion.
You could argue that. You could argue Mookie Betts, Lindor
Bellinger's
over
there.
Bellinger right now is putting up ridiculous numbers.
If Ryan Braun played at Citizens Bank Park for 162 times a year, he would be a Hall of Fame, the best player of all time.
It's a strong possibility. I've seen, so I went back and I checked. I've seen 11 home runs from Braun at this stadium. You know how ridiculous that is?
How many 3-homer games does he have against the Phillies?
I was at least one of them.
Yeah.
But I can't recall anything beyond that. But yes, so you can blame me for this particular series. You can blame the podcast every single time there's a Dollar Dog Night because we are cheap as hell, and you know that we're going to those games. We are also, most of us, fat. Rob, you are the exception here. So thanks for...
It's not going to last long.
Well, hey, you go to the gym, you work out, you got a better way about it. You have to stay
in some type of shape with going, like, when you do your army stuff for it.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Oh, there you go.
And I need to get laid, too.
All right, well, look, that helps, I'm sure. But before we get into some actual baseball stuff, again, mentioning I was at game 2. What do you guys enjoy going to ballparks and watching the game live now? versus watching it at home, I don't know if I'm just miserable. I don't know if people have just gotten stupider or if I've gotten smarter. I don't know. But I cannot go to these games and not feel as though if there's 1,000 people in my section that at least 900 of them are punchable. What is your take on going to a game live versus watching it at home? What's more enjoyable for you now?
Personally, that stuff, I don't really pay attention to it. Usually when I'm at a game, I'm there with a few friends where we're just kicking back, having a few beers, enjoying some baseball. Going to Phillies games is a situation where I'm not really, I'm into the game, but I'm not as into it as I would be, say, at a Phillies or at a Eagles game or a Flyers game or something like that, Going to the Phillies game is more of a social interaction when I go with friends. Just, as I said, kicking back, having a few beers, enjoying the game. So I don't really notice, the morons around me as much as I would at other sporting events. So for me, it's always a fun experience to go down to a Phillies game.
For me, it depends on the sport. Like Rob said,
Eagles fans are by far the best of this, by the way.
Well,
if you're going to a game,
well, I'm even talking about when it comes to watching a sport. I could watch football on TV. I can watch hockey on TV. Even basketball I can watch on TV. It's tough to watch baseball from pitch 1 to out 27. For me, I think it's more of a background noise type of sport. When I'm at work, it helps that the My Teams app, you can stream the games. I can sit my phone down, put the game up, listen to it while I'm doing my work. And so when it comes to that, but if I'm for baseball, I'd much rather be at the stadium. If I'm going to watch from pitch 1, like I said, to out 27, I have to be at the stadium. Football, I could sit in front of a TV and watch 4 games from 9:30 a.m. when they do the London games to the Sunday night football game and not move and watch every game, every play, and be fine all 4 games. And like you mentioned, but when it comes to being at a game, I'd much rather be at a Phillies game than watch it on TV. But there are idiots. I hate the wave.
Wave's terrible.
The seats are uncomfortable too.
Dude, we're big. Like, it doesn't work out.
And I hate marriage proposals to where whenever I see one, I scream, "Please say no."
I hope to God people say
because I think it would be hilarious. But so like when I was at the game, whatever it was, 3-4 weeks ago, and the way I sat there with my arms folded and looking around at these idiots wanting to punch every single one of them.
I don't understand how you can be, feet away from the greatest athletes on earth, and I'm not saying every single person out there is, phenomenal, but they are professional athletes. And to be in that kind of a company and to instead look to your left or right at the sections of fellow idiots near you and say, I'd rather watch to make sure I'm in synchronization perfection for the goddamn wave.
It drives me nuts.
You are terrible human beings, because I also have to then, just like Elle said, you stand there or you sit there with your arms crossed. Here's my issue with that. Depending on how long your dumbass section stands up and follows the wave, standing looking around a damn corner, I can't see what's going on in the game. So you see me navigating my head, swerving around through, trying to see what the hell is going on. I hate fans at Citizens Bank Ballpark.
And the thing is, it's always the one guy who tries to start the wave who does it about 57 times before he finally succeeds. And it's always some drunk idiot who just doesn't want to give up.
It's even worse when it happens when the game is actually close. And
Oh, yeah.
Okay, if the Phillies are getting blown out or if the Phillies are blowing out the other team, okay, maybe it's acceptable. I'll hate it, but it's more acceptable than if it's a 3-2 game, we're in the 7th inning, and this is where, look, anything can happen. You don't want to sit there and do the freaking wave while if the Phillies are in need of a double play. Why? It makes zero sense, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, I can't do it. The hardest, I think even more so than the wave and the woo chant, we all know how much I hate the woo chant, is I hate the dad who has to be loud enough to coach the entire section. He's trying to be a good dad for his kid, and he's telling his kid the wrong freaking everything. I want to throw that guy off the side of the freaking stadium, pull his kid to the side and say, here, park your ass right here. I'll teach you what baseball actually is. Your dad's a goddamn moron. That's all I want to do. That, and then the second worst thing, and I know half of the people who listen to us are going to freaking hate me for this, but Philly accents are the worst freaking things to listen to.
Okay, my question, what is a Philly accent, though?
Hold on. So,
Are we talking accent or words like John?
It's
but I don't understand, like, because when you hear somebody from Boston and you know that Boston accent, I don't know what a Philly accent is, and that's no lie. Like, I'm not joking. What the heck is a Philly accent?
Did you guys see that article that just came out that said the Philly accent was one of the sexiest in the country?
Sexiest?
So like that damn thing came out like 5 minutes after I put that tweet out there saying how much I couldn't stand this shit. Oh, I was so angry. So I'm going to pull this up real quick and see if I can find it. Hold on. So this is a clip of like Bradley Cooper. I got to eventually find where he actually speaks.
The template for the Philly accent is the Lee's Hoagies commercial. It was like, do you remember that? It was like, I don't remember that. Like, we're your regular family. We watch the Phillies on TV. We go down to the Jersey Shore. But when we want great hoagies, discount prices on beer, and a great atmosphere, we go to Lee's Hoagies in Horsham, PA.
So that
Lee's Hoagies, you're welcome for the free advertising.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm sure we're gonna get in trouble for something like this, but that was Bradley Cooper on some interview talk show of some sort. But that accent, and it's the worst with women who never shut the hell up.
The loud ones,
and they got to talk to the whole damn section. I can't stand it. Oh my god, we didn't have terrible seats for this game. And me and my dad, I went with my dad, and we looked at each other in like the second or third inning, and I was like, dude, we got to walk around. Like, this is not working out for me right now.
You really hate the Philly accent, don't you?
I couldn't do it. The woman behind me, I wanted to strangle her. I was like, see, I almost had to put a whole bunch of money in the swear jar for sexual innuendos that were about to occur in my rant here. Oh, but yeah, so this is my pitch to everyone who listens to us. If you sit near people who are, if you're listening to a parent who is talking the wrong things baseball to their kid, help a kid out. Punch their dad in the face. I think that's acceptable. Strangle the mom. Who cares? Whatever it is.
You really don't want to go to baseball games ever again, do you?
Here's the problem. I love being there. Like, I love.
And you can't do any of that. But
I can't. I need to figure this out. I've got to find a section. They need to have a section for like genuine baseball fans. Like, when we go to hockey games, all the best Flyers fans are up top because none of us have any money. And we all only talk good hockey.
Well, those seats suck.
Oh, if we have no money because we go to like 15 games a year.
I'm talking about in terms of how my knees have to be up to my chest. The seats are kind of comfortable, but the fact that they're small because we're bigger.
Yeah, well,
that's what
if we ate a salad every once in a while.
We do. Chocolate.
Oh my god, it's just, I don't know, it's brutal. But we did just spend 12 minutes talking about nothing that actually matters in Philadelphia Phillies baseball.
We'll actually have to explain that salad chocolate thing once to people.
One day we will explain that, but we are quite possibly the healthiest humans on the planet if that's considered salad.
For the record, I just want to chime in. One time at a Phil's game, it was back around 08 or 09, I heard a dad tell his kid that Shane Victorino was a power hitter.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that plays into exactly what you're talking about right there.
Yeah, and that's the kind of I cannot take idiots speaking. Like, I have no problem with you being there. Cheer when the people who are smart near you are cheering. That's acceptable. We accept that loudness. We accept the energy. If things aren't going well, you do have the right to boo, but it needs to be a boo. It's just, I hate Philadelphia Philly people. They're just moronic, and I know that half of you listening to us are probably those idiots, and I'm sorry for you. But hopefully we provide you with some knowledge.
I also think, though, going to a Phillies game is where you're...
Social event, like Rob said.
Like Rob said. This is a social event compared to going to an Eagles game or a Flyers game.
That's true.
I mean, especially Eagles games, people, they'll tailgate. If there's an 8 o'clock... If the Eagles are playing a Sunday night football game, they're going to tailgate for 12 hours.
At least.
And
they're still going to be more intelligent drunk off their eggs.
Maybe it's because football is an easier sport to understand than baseball, in different terms. But also just the passion when it comes to the Eagles games. I think there's more passion. It's easier because the game goes by a little quicker.
I do think more so than anything, when you look at it, football games are always going to be the most expensive, right?
That's true.
So you're not just, it's Tuesday night, got some shit going on. Let's go to a Phillies game. That happens all the time. People just show up. That is what it is. But that's not really happening for Eagles games. If you're there for an Eagles game, you can assume you are you're a generational fan, and
they're
you were
playing,
taught.
I'm sorry, Shane. They're planned events too. Like people plan out their
Yeah.
fall around Eagles games. Like I've told all my friends, and luckily my one friend who was the best man, and his wedding, the Eagles had a Thursday night game, so that weekend I didn't have to worry about it. But like, do not get married during the Eagles game because I will not show up.
Do not do anything during an Eagles game.
True.
And unless you're gonna have a big screen TV with the game on while the ceremony's going on, I will not be there. Like if I ever get married, it's gonna be a spring wedding because I'm not getting married or having the chance of getting married during an Eagles game.
If I get married during the fall, it's not going to be on a Sunday. That's for damn sure.
Well, I hope for everyone's sake that none of us get married. But we've wasted enough time talking. That's because this has not been the most pleasurable week of Philadelphia Phillies baseball. We had to rant about other things that piss us off that are slightly more entertaining. We're going to start with some of the pitching things first, and then we'll work our way to the offense. So Rob can have a little bit of his rant time on Malley, which is always welcomed here at Always Next Year Podcast. So Vince Velasquez, if Pavetta's leash was any indication of what the front office views this season as, Pavetta, so if you listen to High Hopes Pod or At the Yard Pod, both of them had noted numerous times throughout the offseason, numerous times throughout spring training and throughout the regular season, how many people within the Philadelphia Phillies organization, and around baseball believe that Nick Pivetta was around the corner for a true breakout. He had, 4 starts, and he was terrible this year. And quick leash, man. He was gone. He went right down to AAA, hoping for a Brett Myers return right now, where he kind of rights himself and can come out and make contributions. But Vince Velasquez had a little bit longer of a leash this year. If nothing else, but because of his first 4 or 5 starts, he did not pitch well, in my opinion. He was getting hit hard just right at people. But did not give up many runs until his last few starts. Then he goes on the IL, which is the first time I've remembered to call it the IL all year.
I still call it the DL.
You should.
I'm not politically correct.
I don't know that anyone could ever make the argument that anyone from here is politically correct. With half the shit Kev says underneath his breath. Good Lord. That makes me almost want to edit podcasts. We shouldn't have to edit podcasts. But Vince Velasquez goes in the IL. Have we seen the last of Vince Velasquez? His last couple starts have not been good.
God,
Rob, we'll start with you.
God, I hope so. The game, the Dollar Dog night that I went to against Detroit, he threw 99 pitches in 2 2/3 innings. And, I mean, that's, he's had some really bad outings where he's thrown 100 pitches in, 4 or 5 innings or something like that. But 99 and might have been 2 2/3. It was brutal. And they only gave up 3 runs the whole game. I mean, he gave up the 3 runs in the innings that he was in, and bullpen shut him down after that. But it's just hard to watch, and the games are so boring when he pitches because he takes so long to get
Human
through the
rain
innings.
delay.
It's like a 25, 30 pitches every inning he's out there. It's so hard to watch. Even if he does get through the inning without giving up any runs, it's still a bad look for the team because you know that they're going to need to go to the bullpen early because he's going to hit 100 pitches in the 4th inning. They can't have. He's going to wear out the bullpen if he stays in the starting rotation. So they need to move on from him because he doesn't have that out pitch that we talked about him developing before. He hasn't developed it, and that's why it takes him so long to get through these innings.
Yeah, continues to nibble with that fastball instead, and he, shakes off JT, constantly because he doesn't trust his secondary stuff. El, what is your take on Vince Velasquez and his rotation spot?
You kind of stole to say he needs to trust JT. Like the game against St. Louis when he shook him off 4 or 5 times, and
3 of them ended up in the bleachers.
JT said after the game, he's like, dude, just pitch. I know what I'm doing. Like I have the defensive game plan. I know what these hitters can and cannot do. Just pitch. When I throw down a sign, just throw it. So that's something that he needs to mentally get back. I do think that as of right now, his starting spot is gone. He probably should go to the bullpen. But it's gonna depend on injuries, obviously. If we have injuries to the rotation, or if the rotation struggles like they kind of have been the last weekish or so, like for the a little bit they've been struggling a little bit. Besides Cole Irvin, I know we're gonna talk about him in a little bit. His debut, and who pitched it? It wasn't Eichhoff. It was it Eichhoff today?
Eflin.
Eflin, I'm sorry.
Today.
Eflin, his last couple of starts before today were, almost masterpiece. They were really good. But put him in the bullpen, and maybe he takes himself out, take the game out of his head. Just go out when you get called upon. Go out there and throw. Just pitch. Don't think. Don't overthink. Don't try to come up with a game plan yourself. That's what you have your catcher for. That's they know the hitters. If you call something, throw it. You don't have the, like you mentioned, he doesn't have an out pitch. Just throw your stuff, and if he's coming in out of the bullpen too, he can throw it hard. You're not going to be out. You're not going to be asked to go 6-7 innings. Just go out there and throw. He just needs to get his head right. I think he needs to. I think going on IL is going to help him. Hopefully, get out of his own head, and then take a step forward to help the bullpen, because the bullpen is going to need some help. They're struggling right now, especially with Robertson out, and somebody who never went on the bullpen, of course, comes to the Phillies, and he's going to be out till July. So, of course, it happens.
So I'm out on Vinny V. As a piece in this rotation, I'm willing to take a look at any farm arm that we need to. He has had chance after chance after chance, and you guys both kind of hit on it. Rob, when you're talking about his out pitches, L, when you're talking about trusting JT, I was of the standpoint and mindset of I was more excited to see what JT could do with his pitching staff because he's so smart, because he prepares for games so well. As a pitcher, you need to just go out there and just trust your stuff and trust your catcher in that game plan. Do not think. Just go up there, and if he puts down a sign for a fastball, freaking throw a fastball. If he puts down a sign for a changeup, even if you're not feeling it, throw the damn changeup. Your catcher needs to see what you're feeling too, and if your changeup's not dying the way that it should, if your curveball or your slider or whatever your off-speed pitch doesn't have the bite it typically does, I guarantee you JT Realmuto will adjust that in his game plan, and he will make the necessary changes to his calls for that game. He is that smart. Vince Velasquez doesn't want to allow an all-star catcher to be an all-star freaking catcher. He wants Vince Velasquez to be Vince freaking Velasquez, and it doesn't make any damn sense to me. So I am out on him there. Where I am changing my standpoint on, I have long been against putting him in the bullpen because I don't trust his head, just as Al said. First time through the lineup, he does do decently. It's been pretty consistent throughout his entire major league career. First time through the lineup, he's pretty okay. It's that second and third time through where he really starts to hit a wall. I'm more interested now than I would have been, and I'm more interested also because of the way our bullpen is going to have to continue to be used. Tommy Hunter's still not back. David Robertson, L, you mentioned him, still not back. We're calling up freaking Austin Davis, for the 97th time in a couple of years here, to fill a spot. Vince Velasquez is a guy who, if he only needs to throw 1 or 2 innings, maybe he throws 97, 98, and his fastball has a little bit more run. And he can be a 2-pitch pitcher, and that's fine. But the guy who replaced Vince Velasquez in the rotation debuted on Mother's Day, threw 7 innings of 1-run ball, Cole Irvin. I have not ever really been a big Cole Irvin fan, but I am very, very intrigued as to what he could do. Curious to see what you guys saw from him on that Mother's Day game. I don't know if you guys watched the game or if you saw any highlights. El, we'll start with you this time, man.
Obviously it was an impressive debut. I'm not going to take too much from it yet. I want to see more of it. He's going to pitch against a pretty good Rockies team coming up.
Yeah.
So that's going to give us more of what he's able to do. Again, I don't. Step one, get his first start under his belt. Get on a major league field, on a mound against major league hitters. Good. Now, can he sustain that success? That's going to be key. He obviously looked really comfortable, really confident.
It's easy to do that against the Royals, so
exactly
terrible offense.
Except wasn't it game 1 they looked...
Arietta should not open his mouth.
Every time he does, didn't it happen last year? He opened up his mouth and then he went downhill. Yeah, he shouldn't. But in terms of Cole, just let's see it, for a multitude of starts before we crown this guy, the savior of the rotation. So a great first step, as I mentioned. Now, against a really good, Rockies offense coming into town. Let's see what he can do, and then we'll move forward from there. Because the next 20 some odd games, they just went 1-3 against the Brewers. They have the Rockies, the Cubs, the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Dodgers, and then the Padres. Like, that's not an easy.
No, this is a gauntlet test of the
up
season
until
right
up
now.
until June 5th. These games, and they don't have a day off for another 10 days, so it's going to be very important for the starting rotation to find a way to get deep in the games, to save this bullpen, because no days off, and you're playing really, really good baseball teams. So Cole, it's going to start with him on Friday, and it's going to be important. It's a really important game for him, and it'll help us see what we have in him if we're going to need him, going forward, especially if this is going to be a playoff team.
Rob, did you get a chance to watch that Mother's Day game?
I did not. I was out doing a bunch of things, running around doing errands that day, but I did listen to it on the radio. It sounded like he pitched a pretty solid game. I didn't get to see any of the highlights, but I'm with Elle. I'm kind of, taking it with a grain of salt because it was against the Royals. I mean, he did pitch a great game, and for the most part, he didn't have any run support until they had that big, I think it was like the 6th or 7th inning or something like that. Mm-hmm. So he was pitching with a little bit of pressure, being that it was a close game, which is a good sign that he is able to continue to pitch well. But as I said, and as Elle said, it's the Royals. We'll see what he can do against a much more talented Rockies lineup, especially being a left-handed pitcher thrown to Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story and all those guys when they come to town. That's going to be the start that really tells me a lot about who he is as a pitcher. But he got off on the right foot.
Yeah, Cole Irvin is a guy, and it's weird. To me, he has seemed like such a minor league pitcher. To me, every step that he's gone through in the minor leagues, he's had success. But he's had success purely pitching to contact. When you get to AAA and you obviously you get to the majors, that contact rate and the barrel rate, it goes up, and you're now pitching against, just like you mentioned, when you're going up, against the Colorado Rockies in your next start, you're going up against some really, really talented and powerful offensive pieces there. The one thing I would say for him is the fact that he's another guy, not unlike Eichhoff, who he pitches. He's not going to have to rely on 90, like Jake Arrieta. Like, he was a power pitcher during his peak, throwing 96, 97 with a lot of movement. Made his off-speed pitches that much more devastating. He's had to kind of reinvent himself as he lost a few miles off that fastball. Most pitchers do. Most pitchers nowadays who are throwing 95 plus, which is a lot of the major leagues, they are relying on just a really, really heavy, hard fastball that moves a bit. When that goes, you start to see stuff like Tim Lincecum, where they're just not the same pitcher. Cole Irvin, Jared Eichhoff, guys like that, they're pitchers. They have to rely on movement. They have to rely on deception, and they have to rely on a really strong game plan and just painting the black. And for the most part, both of those guys really, really do that. So I am curious, mainly because he is a pitcher who I believe will trust the signs are being put down for him. For a guy like JT, even Knapp, if he's behind the plate, and we'll get to him in a little bit as well. But just like you guys said, I am cautiously optimistic about what he did, and I am more intrigued now than I thought I would have been with him coming up. The rotation as a whole. So I was talking to Chris on Twitter from, I think it was last night or the night before. Every time Arrieta gets lit up or anyone in the starting rotation gets lit up, he tweets at me and he says pitching. Chris has an NFL show on YouTube, by the way. It's Spot's House. Give that a shout or a look. We're giving it a shout out. Give his show a look. There we go. He puts together a pretty decent show. But I always find it weird, when people sit there and they reactionary, they look at that one thing, and Jake Arrieta, again, tough night. But out of the last 18 games, 11 of those games, the starting pitchers allowed either 1 or no runs. Only 3 times did they allow more than 3 runs. I'm not saying all those starts, they went 6, 7, 8 innings, a handful they did. There were a few that they went 3 2/3. There were a few where they went just 4 innings. But when your starting pitching is pitching as well as it had been going into this Milwaukee series, I don't have that severe, we need to go get Keuchel. We need to make a trade right now. As some of these other people do. I'm not naive to sit there and say that at some point this season we'll have to pull that trigger. I just didn't feel like it's right now. But when you do look at this rotation right now, Arrieta is on a downswing. Aaron Nola hasn't yet been Aaron Nola. But the three guys in the back end right now, Jared Eichhoff up until this last start was just a beautiful, beautiful pitcher. Zach Eflin is, one of the most efficient pitchers in baseball right now, the way that he uses and utilizes contact. And then Cole Irvin's going to step in here. What is your takeaway from the starting rotation right now, without Vince Velasquez in it, without Nick Pivetta in it? How comfortable are you going in through this gauntlet that LJ just, he ran through who we're playing the rest of this month, and into July? How comfortable and confident are you in guys that maybe don't really garner that kind of respect?
Well, I'll start off with the number one spot in the rotation. I'll go with Nola. And I think that the last start was a hiccup, but he's going to get better. He pitched well in his 2 outings leading up to that last start, and I think that he's going to get back to doing what he was doing before that. I mean, it was a bad weather night, and really both starting pitchers were pretty off in that game. Nola obviously did not pitch well, but I think that he's going to get back to his old Aaron Nola ways as the season progresses. The one who I'm most concerned about is Arrieta. The fact that he started off pitching pretty well at the beginning of the season, and he's progressively gotten a little bit worse with every single start, including his last start where he did not pitch well at all.
It's kind of mirroring last year.
He really is, except he's fading a little bit earlier. Last season he started to fade around the end of June, I think it was, and maybe early July. This season he's already fading in the middle of May. And we need him to right the ship more than anything. The 2 guys after that, Eichhoff and Eflin, yes. I mean, they've been excellent. And I think that Eichhoff is going to be able to keep it up throughout the rest of the season, because I know what kind of pitcher he is. And when he's been healthy, he's always been very good. Mm-hmm. Eflin, he started off great last year. He had a little bit of a hiccup in the middle of the season. Pitched well again towards the end, so I'm comfortable with him in that 4 spot, but it wouldn't surprise me if he starts to struggle a little bit. As for that 5th spot, I don't trust Cole Irvin to be that guy who fills out that 5th spot for the rest of the season. And that's why I think that they need to go out and get a pitcher. He pitched well against the Royals. He's going to have a test against Colorado. I don't think that he's going to be that guy who can just stay on the Major League roster for the rest of the year.
I think most of us are cautious with the Irvin take as well. We'll talk just Eflin and Knapp on this one with UL.
Can I say something about Nola real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know coming into the season, we all had high hopes for Nola, but I think I was more cautious with it because my big question was last year the admiration? Was last year we saw the best of Aaron Nola? My thing with Aaron Nola is, he's had a few starts where the weather hasn't been great, but if he's pitching in October, it's not going to be 90 degrees.
Yeah.
It's going to be cold. And if he is not going to be Aaron Nola, who we saw last year because of the weather, and if we get into October, we might be in trouble. So he needs to find a way, and I know it's tough weather, when it's cold, you can't feel the stitches on the baseball, you can't find your arm slot, you can't do this, you can't do that. He needs to find a way around that. If he's going to be the ace of the staff, if he's going to be the leader, if he's going to be the Cole Hamels from 10 years ago, he's going to have to find a way to pitch when the weather isn't the greatest, because if you're pitching in October, it's not going to be 9 degrees. You're going to be pitching on a Sunday night at 7 o'clock. It's football type of weather. You have to figure out a way to learn how to pitch in that, and that's my issue with him. Not issue, but that's my concern with him.
It's a valid concern. If he is going to be pitching game 1 of every series in the postseason, you need him to be a 6-7 plus inning guy. Of two runs or less. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that a few pitchers, including Nola, have come out and said that with these new baseballs, it's harder to get a grip on them in bad weather.
And it's all across baseball right now.
It is. I mean, we've seen it with Chris Sale. He's had the same issues up until his 17 strikeout game the other night, which he still lost, by the way. Well, he didn't lose, but the team lost.
Red Sox lost, yeah.
But Yeah, he's going to need to find a way to work around that.
Yeah, for sure. So the concerns on Aaron Nola, I think, are valid. The one thing that I would say is I'm hopeful that with warmer weather comes better results for him, and he can put himself into a much better rhythm. He's not feeling anything out anymore. His mechanics will be more finely tuned. His arm slot will be there. He'll have a gauge on the baseball. He'll have at that point, come October, he'll have 30 plus starts under his belt. But hopefully has 15 plus starts in a row there that have really helped put him in a better way heading into postseason baseball, or hopeful postseason baseball. But Andrew Knapp. So we all hate Andrew Knapp on this show, very, very much so. However, and Johnny Heller of 3 Up, 3 Down, I got into something with him on Twitter about the worth of Andrew Knapp and keeping him here. And he had sent me some stat lines of Eflin versus, or whoever he is pitching to, whether it be Jorge Alfaro, Andrew Knapp, or JT Realmuto. And by far and away, the best stats and numbers there were with Andrew Knapp. My question is, Rob, you had a concern. I'm going to go to L with the question, but Rob, you had a concern with Eflin saying that he is a streaky guy and he's not someone that you have a whole lot of confidence in yet for the duration of a season. If it meant you were going to get the best version of Zach Eflin because of who he's throwing to, we saw that A.J. Ellis followed Clayton Kershaw, just kept following him through every single promotional level that Kersh got, even when he was an awful catcher towards the end.
Kershaw couldn't have got traded here when Ellis did.
I know, right? Well, hey, Ellis fixed Adam Morgan, and I'm convinced of it. All right? He was the only person that Adam Morgan could freaking throw to until Adam Morgan turned into Adam Morgan this year again. But it goes to say how important it is to trust who you're throwing to. Is it enough for you, if when the full complement of the bench is back, L, is it enough for you to warrant, at Andrew Knapp, you can keep a roster spot right now?
Well, the way the starting pitching is going now, you need the best version of Eflin. And if the best version of Eflin is throwing to Knapp, you keep Knapp. Unfortunately, they changed the way the rosters are. You know how in September used to just let's get 40 men. They could have had 3 or 4 catchers, but now you can only have, isn't it like 26? Mm-hmm. A 26 man. Maybe that 26 man could be an extra, not even an extra catch. Well, it could be an extra catcher that you kind of have more trust with. But if having Andrew Knapp to throw or to be the battery mate with Eflin is going to give us the best possible starting type of rotation with the best Eflin, you have to do it. Until something catastrophic happens, then we say it time and time again. We don't like Andrew Knapp. He always seems to come up, in pinch hitting situations when we need a
That's
hit.
what drives me crazy.
And it never happens. So that's where, they need to find an upgrade on the bench to where they have somebody other than Knapp to go to, because getting rid of Aaron Altera, hopefully that's a step in the right direction. Your favorite player. Nick Williams, hopefully he can find a way to step up, but it is tough when you get into the games where the starting pitchers don't go deep into games. So you're using pinch hitters a lot more often, and then when you get to a big spot in the 8th or 9th inning, and Knapp's the only guy that you have, it's tough. But that's where you need...
Give the bat to Jake Arrieta.
That's where you need the starting rotation, to go deeper into games, so you're not using all the hitters off the bench to where we're putting a situation where it's just Knapp. But if Eflin is going to be his best self with Knapp, you keep him. You have to. Like I said, until Eflin falls off the cliff, and then you're like, whatever, we just get rid of him. But then again, is there a catcher in the system that you trust now, or is there a catcher on the street?
Davey Guerrero. Yeah.
I don't say that.
I don't know that he's going to be anything in the major leagues. Don't get me wrong. He's tearing up AAA right now. That's
unless when Kingery comes back, everybody says that he's the emergency catcher. Just let him be the backup catcher. But you need to have the best version of Eflin, and if like I mentioned, if it's going to be Knapp, go with it for now, because it, minus the start against Milwaukee,
which again, our 3 best pitchers went. Our 3 current best pitchers went in games 2, 3, and 4, and each got lit up.
Exactly. That's a good. Well, we've mentioned it. That's a really good Milwaukee lineup.
It's a great offense over there. So again, and you take that for what it is. Over the last 18 starts, like I mentioned, 11 of those your starting pitchers are giving up 1 or no runs. That's pretty damn impressive. As we all know how much I hate Andrew Knapp, but I agree. If it is going to mean, he's going to start once every 10 days, and he even splits, starts with JT that Eflin's throwing to him. Great. Let's see what we can get from JT behind the plate, and if he can get the same results from Eflin, but as Andrew Knapp does. But I think right now, if those stats are going to remain true and hold true, and you're going to get that version of Eflin, you're right, Al. You got to keep Andrew Knapp on. Let's shift this over to the offense now. Before we get into the Harper debate, I'm going to let Rob basically just rant on why the Philadelphia Phillies need to get rid of your favorite hitting coach in Malley. So Rob, who is sporting a ANY Always Next Year podcast t-shirt, which will be soon available for sale. We're pretty excited for that. We will get a picture for that or a picture of that and send that out to the Instagram account, the Twitter account. But Rob, why should we fire your favorite hitting coach?
Because the whole damn lineup has been hitting terribly over the course of the last month or so. And you look at it, you'll see, okay, they've had some games where they scored 6 or 7 runs or whatever, but look at those games. They've been a benefit of the other team playing terrible defense, which, by the way, Milwaukee had 3 errors today, and we still only scored 3 runs. They've been the benefit of drawing a lot of walks, which, I mean, that's kind of a compliment to the offense, but it's not as good as, having consistent extra base hits coming in, which they haven't had. They're not mashing the ball. They're not hitting home runs at the clip that we expected them to. They're not getting those extra base hits. They're not coming up with, the bases clearing doubles and all that kind of stuff at a consistent rate. And this has been going on they hit well for the first 2 weeks of the season. Ever since then, at least in my opinion, they've been terrible. And they have so many players in this lineup that are underperforming. Obviously, Bryce has been vastly underperforming. We have a number of other guys. Franco's average is down to the 230s now. He hasn't been hitting the ball well. You have guys like Cesar who, he's been hitting well lately, but he's been inconsistent throughout the season. Andrew McCutchen, a guy who typically hits, somewhere in the ballpark of 270 to 280, his average is down in the 230s. He's not hitting the ball as well as he normally does. When you have so many guys, and especially talented players, who are just not living up to what they normally do, not putting up the kind of numbers that they normally do, to me, that's more than just a slump. To me, that's reflective on the hitting coach. And that's why I think that they need to move on and go in a different direction.
I think a really, really telling thing is the fact that offenses get better when he leaves. You look at the Houston Astros and what they became. Obviously the Cubs as well. When he left there, his second to last year wasn't terrible.
They did win a World Series while he's there, but that's talent alone, pretty much.
And that's true. And we do have enough talent that we should be able to overcome something like John Malley. But I will say, this month has been a worse weather month than what April was. So they are certainly fighting through some weather. That being said, so does everyone that we have to play, and other offenses do not seem to be having quite as much of an issue right now dealing with some of the elements that they have. You mentioned obviously Harper hasn't been what we expected yet. It's not to say that he's a waste right now. I'm certainly not in that boat. But if you take a look at it, especially even right now, it's been. I think the TV broadcast last night had mentioned, or maybe it was the radio that had mentioned last night, that it had been 7 or 8 games since either Maikel Franco or Rhys Hoskins had a home run, and that Bryce Harper's had his one, that grand slam.
Hasn't had one since.
And that has been it for the last 15 or 16 games. So those are your 3 legit power hitters who are not producing power right now. Andrew McCutchen hasn't been offensively, he hasn't been hitting as well as we would expect. He's walking and getting on base. But certainly his power numbers have not, peaked up yet. JT Realmuto, for as nice of an offensive season that he's quietly kind of having, not much pop yet. I would expect someone like him and his swing that as the weather warms, we'll see a difference. But some of the other guys, these are streaks we should not go through with a lineup like this. And when your entire team goes cold, with the exception of Gene Segura, who just can't stop hitting the baseball. So, Al, your prediction right now looks pretty strong.
And now he's hitting homers, too.
And how he is the only power, which is hilarious. Him and Cesar are the only guys hitting home runs right now, which is absurd to me. But there's a lot right now to be really concerned with the overall offense. But I want to get into one member in particular, and we know it's going to be Bryce. There's a debate right now whether or not to give him a day off or not, a mental health day, and what that would mean, or what that, how much that would help him, juggling the lineup, which we saw today. He moved into the 2 spot. He's tried everything. He's went no batting gloves. He's went batting gloves. He's gone with the axe bat. He's gone with the non-axe bat. He's gone with bat tape. He's gone with pine tar. He's gone with, his ankle guard on the outside of his pants. He's gone underneath the pants. He's gone short pants. He's gone long. He's doing damn near everything that he can to hit the baseball. I would say that throughout, up until the last week and a half, it didn't matter that he was hitting 220, 230. It didn't matter because Reese was mashing. Reese was on an MVP clip at that point. He couldn't stop hitting home runs. He couldn't stop getting extra base hits. When Reese cools off, you notice Bryce Harper more. And that makes this current stretch that much more difficult right now for Philadelphia Philly fans. To put it in perspective, I was at, again, Game 2 in Milwaukee, and my seats were behind Bryce. He makes his first diving or sliding catch into the wall, bangs up his knee a little bit on the under part of the padding where the concrete sits. And, it was a cold and rainy night. I want to say there's probably only 30,000 people there, but 30,000 people, rightfully so, cheered him on. And then 2 batters later, he does the same damn thing, going into the same part of the wall. No hesitation, no nothing. He's made a handful of really, really spectacular defensive plays. That very next inning, he came up and he struck out, and they booed. People notice right now that he's not putting up those kinds of numbers that we expect. How concerned are you guys about Bryce Harper overall long term? We've seen stretches like this before, but this certainly is the worst of his career that he has hit. Rob, we'll start with you.
Well, the thing that I noticed is something that they put up, I think it was either on, I forget it was one of the Phillies' pre- or post-game shows, or if it was on the MLB Network, but they broke down his swing. And his swing just looks so much different now than it did back during his MVP season in 2015, and even in the years after, up to last year. It looks a lot slower. It looks like he's dragging through the zone more. His hands aren't as quick. He's not getting around as quickly as he was. But it fundamentally just the fundamentals in his swing aren't there like they used to be. And to me, that's something that can be corrected. So hopefully, with some good coaching, as in firing John Malley, that will be fixed. But I don't know if I have faith in Malley to be able to fix something like that. So that's where my concern lies.
Do you think the $330 million athletes really respond to hitting coaches that much?
I think Bryce seems like the kind of guy that he would, at least to an extent. I don't think that he's. But
I feel like he has his own team of instructors and hitters. I feel like he's going to go to his dad.
How does that work for Ben Simmons when it comes to shooting? Just asking. It's a serious question. He has his brother that's supposed to be a genius shooting coach. I don't know if he's supposed to be really a genius, but he's a shooting coach, and
you picked the wrong argument, man.
And I'm just saying, and Ben Simmons is 0 for 17 in his career on threes, and
he's not a 3-point shooter yet,
and doesn't want to. In Game 7, he took 5 shots. That was actually a game that I actually watched.
We heard
he took 5 shots. Like if he like so.
So hold on, because we can't get too much into this because I'll lose my shit. Dollar to the swear jar. I do want to point out that Ben Simmons from year 1 to year 2, he damn near doubled the amount of jump shots from 10 to 14 feet that he took. I know it's not that much, but it's an improvement. He doubled the amount of jump shots that he took, and his percentages on those shots went up 8%. That's a hell of a lot for a guy who can't shoot the basketball. And I acknowledge he still can't shoot, but that's an improvement.
For somebody that's supposed to be a guard, which I don't think he should be a point guard. He should be a forward that should be playing down low because he can't shoot, and I don't think he'll ever be able to shoot. And All right, no, let's go back to baseball because you know how I'm not allowed to talk bad about.
I'm just saying, if you want an improvement from year 1 to year 2, whether his brother's a shot genius or not, whether Ben Simmons will ever shoot the basketball well or not,
that was good enough for you though.
An improvement from year 1 to year 2.
You're the only
I'm cool with it.
Sixer fan that was
I'm fine with it.
Was happy with his improvement.
I am happy with his improvement.
Player. He's still the most overrated player in the NBA, but
he is not.
Let's be honest.
But Bryce Harper,
sorry,
when not talking 76ers basketball comps there, Bryce Harper undoubtedly has his own team and his own people that he goes to for his swing, and he is. We've seen it, we've read about it, we've heard it in interviews from him and former coaches, and former teammates and current teammates. How well or how much he prepares. He's obviously a very well studied individual. He's gonna figure out what it is that he's doing. Rob, you did hit it on the head. That the biggest thing right now is that bat speed and is his recognition on 4-seam fastballs. That's not there right now. I don't understand how people can be so severely concerned with him at 26 years old that he's not going to find that hand speed again and that he's not going to catch up to fastballs. Like, the guy didn't have a spring training. I know he's played all 42, 43 games, whatever we're at in the season right now. But he's not... He's 26 years old and he's one of the most feared hitters in baseball over the last 6 years, 7 years since he's been up. This didn't just go away. This is just one of those streaks right now, and he will figure it out. And I think that I kind of feel like less is more. I feel like if he simplifies the swing right now, starts using the full field, he punched a single the other way today, to left field. If he begins to do those small things like that, I think he's going to be fine. I don't think that he needs to go full tin cup and put all the Rene Russo bullshit on, dollar to the swear jar again, to right that slump.
I mean, if he had Rene Russo...
If he had Rene Russo, who's a total babe, obviously we wouldn't be in this situation. But...
apparently he's got offers rolling in, though.
That was the funniest thing I've ever seen, that Instagram thing. But yeah, I don't have any long-term lasting concerns for Bryce Harper at 26 years old that he's not going to write some of this out. I think that it's just overexposed right now. As Rob, you've mentioned, the entire offense is cold. You start to notice that a little bit more. When you're winning games, 10-3 early on in the year, and Bryce is 0 for 4 or 0 for 2 with a couple walks. People are like, we're scoring 10 runs when Bryce is not hot. Imagine this team and when he is. Well, I'm still imagining. So it's going to happen sooner rather than later, and I think you're going to start seeing him again. Simplify his swing, simplify what he does, and start using the full field right now.
Maybe we
Al, you look like you strongly disagree.
I do disagree. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but
the amount of times that you say that on this show, you're like,
I think he's pressing a lot, and
he is definitely pressing.
And he can't catch up to a fastball. I think he needs to work on fix his stance a little bit. I think I can't remember who I heard talking about it, but it's like he's crouched too much. He needs to stand up a little bit more. But like Rob said, his swing just looks really long, especially when a fastball comes in, and
anything in the outer part of the plate right now, he looks bad.
He doesn't look right at the plate, and he doesn't need... Wednesday would have been a perfect day to give him a day off. He doesn't need to play 162 games to make the $330 million, to make that contract worth it. He played 159 games last year. I don't think any baseball... I mean, nobody's going to be Cal Ripken. Like, give him a mental day. I would have... Like I mentioned, Wednesday, after sliding into the wall twice, it would have been a perfect day to be like, look, we're giving him a day off. Just let him rest his knees. He's been out there every day, and maybe it would help. Give him, just don't think about the game of baseball. Just sit there, relax. I think he's trying to come up there to mash the ball every at bat. He wants to hit it 500 feet over the stadium. Like, that's what he wants to do, and it's affecting his game right now. You remember when Bobby Abreu won the home run derby? And I'm not saying that the home run derby screwed Bryce up last year, but when Abreu won the Derby, after that, his swing wasn't the same.
He had 5 homers the rest of the season.
He wasn't the guy that he was the first half of that season. So I am more worried than you are, obviously. Now, it's not going to affect him for years to come, but this year, I think, I said that he was going to have like a 260 some odd. He's going to have a 240, 250 average this year. I said he was going to hit like 35 home runs. He might not hit. He'll probably hit 30, 29, 30. Now that's still, good. Yeah, he's going to hit that many home runs, but he's going to be he's going to not be, as what we thought he was going to be in his first year. The way he started the season when he was hitting 350 and he kept getting on base and he was hitting a couple bombs here and there. It's not going to be that. So, but you mentioned when Reese goes cold, he is the most streakiest hitter in all of baseball. When he's hot, oh my God, he's white hot. But when he's cold, he can't. You can throw it up, lob it up to him, he'll miss it. And that affects Bryce in terms of how we see him and how we notice the way he's playing because more pressure and more eyes are on him. But when this team goes cold, besides Gene, because he's a hitting machine, everybody goes cold, and that's what we're seeing right now.
You mentioned that Bryce is swinging too hard, and you can tell because his helmet pops off and just about once every at bat. And another thing that I noticed when they were breaking down his swing is that he's pulling his head off just about every single time. He's not keeping his eye on the ball. He's not, keeping his head down, looking at the pitch through his swing. He's pulling off on every single pitch. And his head is coming up. His head's looking towards the right field stands with every single swing. Yeah,
again, I think when he begins to simplify that swing and it's a little less violent, and maybe it is, maybe he is a little too crouched and maybe his eye level changes too much. Maybe that crouch provides too much launch, like body launch, and that's why his helmet's popping off. There's a lot to be studied. There's a lot to be looked at right now. But he is an obsessive baseball player, and he will figure it out. He will, at the end of the day, do what is best for Bryce Harper and for the Philadelphia Phillies. As far as the day off is gone, I've been back and forth on this, and then I sat there and I thought about it. Kids today in junior high and high school, they're soft as hell, but this is what this world is. Sometimes they just need a mental health day. I've heard kids literally call their mom and say, I need a mental health day tomorrow. I can't go to school. And their parent will call them the hell out because sometimes they're pressing too much in freaking chemistry. Bryce Harper is playing in undoubtedly the most difficult sports town in all of sports to play at. He signed a contract that is going to put a bullseye on him, not only in this city with his fan base, but all across the sport. This guy probably would benefit from getting the hell away from the game for a night. Now, I'm not saying that's going to completely fix him. It's not, but it's a start. It's something to sit there and say, hey, let's take the foot off of this right now. Maybe you just need to go home and have a good steak and just chill.
Did he ever hit you up for the?
No, we didn't hit me up for that.
Steaks
no, and it's good because I'm now out of work, so I cannot afford 16 Morton Steakhouse steaks.
He's got $330 million.
He should be taking us out. No, but he has not. So one final thing before we give a player of the week that I want to touch on, and this is something that I said I went to the game with my dad on Tuesday night. Obviously, I talk baseball with you guys. I talk baseball, with almost anyone who's going to listen. And this is something that's constantly on my mind. So I just want to get like a quick 60-second thought as to what you guys feel on this. Do you think that people are nowadays just too narrow-minded to appreciate what baseball is? Do you think that the over-specialization and the analytically driven minds that are now in place in all of baseball are taking the fun out of these games? Now, these things that patience is not a thing anymore. They want instant gratification. They want instant immediate results. We wanted the day that Bryce signed $330 million that he walked in on opening day with 50 home runs already. There's a process. Do you think that baseball is being ruined by some of these things? Rob, we'll start with you.
I think so, to an extent. Like you said, instant gratification. I think that baseball, it's a long season. Guys are going to go through their slumps, and guys are going to have their ups and downs. And, like you said, you can't expect Bryce to come in and hit 50 home runs in the first month of the season. It's just not going to happen. He probably won't even hit 50 home runs for the season. But it's a 13-year contract. He might have this 50 home run season sprinkled in there. But, I think that there is certainly not enough appreciation for the sport of baseball itself.
Al?
You mentioned it. They want people, and I'm guilty of it too, instant gratification. I think it was the first game of the series. There was a rain delay, And then the first inning took 40 minutes. And it's like, really? We just sat for 40 minutes waiting for the rain to stop. And then the first inning took 40 minutes, and we still have 8 innings after this. And that's where, like, it takes the younger, the millennials now, I guess we can call it, or the younger generation, you know, that's why they're drawn towards basketball. They're drawn, not so much anymore, but drawn towards football. That's more of a CTE thing and parents not wanting their kids to play. But it's a more of a quick moving, you don't, if you stop it, you're not stopping for long.
There's a great sport that lasts not super long. It probably is the shortest playtime. Hockey that no one freaking watches. Drives me goddamn
I know we play
crazy.
That's an expensive sport.
It is expensive.
It's
And you got to start your
expensive to
day at 4 a.m. in the morning.
It's expensive. You need ice time. You know, you need all that equipment. And a lot of times, you know, you break sticks. Sticks aren't cheap. When it comes to football, you know, if you buy the right helmet, my helmet cost me $325.
Never going to need a new one.
Never, unless my head gets bigger, which it shouldn't. I'm not going to need a new one. You know, unless it breaks, which again it shouldn't. But you know, when you're talking about hockey sticks, they're not cheap. You break them a lot. Your skates, if you break the blade, they're not cheap. Like so, and baseball, it should be easier because you get a freaking hockey stick, tape that thing up. And then
play stickball every day.
Play stickball. I used to do that when I was younger.
Same.
You play with a tennis ball, you don't need a baseball glove. Now, baseball gloves are expensive, too.
Good ones.
Good ones.
You can get shit baseball gloves, $1 to the swear jar.
When you get that glove...
Last year for 15 years.
It should last you.
You're really a badass play without a glove.
So it is tough when it comes to the sports, you know, to wanting to play, to wanting to be involved, because they're expensive. They really are.
I think that's a topic that...
Basketball is easy, too, because...
Get a ball.
Get a ball.
Yeah.
There's courts up everywhere. You know,
sure.
Get a ball, and you know, you can get a cheap basketball and still shoot it.
Yep.
So, you know, that's why you rank it. I mean, soccer should be, because you get a ball and you just kick it.
Yeah, but soccer's a dog shit sport.
It is. It really is.
I'm not even putting $1 to the swear jar for
like
that one.
that is, it's so tough to watch because you just see people sitting there running. And when I was in college, when I started writing for the newspaper, my first sport was women's soccer. And Westchester's women's soccer team was really good. And I actually enjoyed it because they were good. But it's so tough to watch if you don't know the rules. And
technically, everyone should box. You just beat the hell out of each other.
That's true too. But yeah, like you mentioned, you know, it all comes down to being instant, you know, gratification, wanting instant results. And when it comes to, say, you know, Bryce Harper, like Rob mentioned, he's here for 13 years, presumably going to be here for 13 years. It was unrealistic for us to think he's going to step into Citizen Bank Park and all he's going to do is hit home runs. It's not going to happen.
So, and that's a topic I think that I wouldn't mind doing almost a get to know the team segment on, as to why certain sports are more watchable, and is it because you grew up and it was easier to play them? But I do think that would be actually an interesting segment to dive into more thought. But I was just curious because I do see the patience, and I see people, and Elle, you mentioned it earlier, not even with this question, that baseball's background noise to people. You know, it never used to be that way, and it certainly appears to be that way now. But before we sign off real quick, we're just going to do a player of the week. Steph won it last time, so she's taking Reese Hoskins again because she's insane. Rob, we'll go to you.
Odubel's going to get going.
I love it. We are very pro Double here. And Elle?
I'm stuck between two. It's tough. Because I could go with Gene, because he's the best player on the team right now.
Gene the hitting machine.
Or I can go with the guy who's hitting .347 in the last 28 games, has the most hits on the team, is batting over 300, and go with Cesar. Not counting his defense right now because I don't know what the hell's going on in his head. I want to go with Gene.
You're going to go with Gene?
I'll go with Gene.
All right, so for the first time so far in the show, I believe the first time anyway, one of us is going to take Bryce Harper. I'm going to take Bryce. I think that he's going to finally break out of it, and I think he's going to break out in a big way.
You're not taking Kingery?
Hey, Kingery will be back up.
Isn't he playing at Reading?
He was possibly. I thought he had one more in Lakewood, but it's
no. They mentioned the next game he's going to be in Reading.
Okay, all right. So he's back in Reading. That's
unless Tom McCarthy doesn't know what he's talking about,
which is
very possible.
Very possible. But we got Reese Hoskins, we have Odubel Herrera, we have Gene Segura, and Bryce Harper. We're going with 4 very integral pieces to the offense. We'll see how things shake out. But that'll be it for In Kap We Trust here at the Always Next Year podcast. Let the Jackdaws take us out.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with a win. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me solid through and through, danced a jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
This has been a production of the Always Next Year Podcast Network. You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, Spreaker, and SoundCloud. Please also remember to rate and review this podcast to validate our members' life choices. We appreciate it. This is AMYP, signing off.